Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Ribbon. Boy, I'm going to tell you, things are popping already. These people are showing so much of their how duplicitous and clueless they are. It is incredible. And let me begin. We were so busy with that, talking about that catastrophic issue that we had with the fire and losing 9 lives and having numerous people injured, and the fiasco that follows, which will be the primary thing on the show. But it's funny because it we didn't get to the weekend flush. So I had to start because one of your quotes would have been very appropriate, but we got so because we got into that mess so quickly, I forgot to go back to it. But you see, you're getting it. You're starting to you get like me with quotes all the time. You're starting and ending. In politics, stupidity is not a handicap. Napoleon Bonaparte. That's true. And I'm going to tell you something. We're going to start with that one because, Paul Coogan showed how stupid he really is during this procedure.
I'm a vice principal. Ask me about a school. Don't ask me about staffing. I don't know anything about it.
Well, that's exactly right. So, number one, he just explained why he should. Hello, Annalise. Nice to see you, Linda. It showed why he should he should not run for mayor. He self-indicted himself. We know he's a puppet. We know he's there just to take care of his friends and give people jobs.
And we saw that in last night's city council meeting.
Yeah. Again. Yeah. So she got approved. But when Paul Coogan is the mayor, Paul Coogan was actually, remember, he said, I was a vice principal. So the biggest achievement in his life was being a vice principal, which means you are subordinate. And he never led anything in his life. He was never responsible to be the leader of a school. He never made principal. He was never in charge of anything. And now he's the mayor, and he thinks that he doesn't have to be in charge now. He can blame everybody else. Now he's blaming the owner of the facility. So listen, Paul, I know your brain cell is it's very hard to have anything absorb in that sponge that you have up there. But you should have studied a little bit of history. And if you studied a little bit about American presidents, you would remember this quote made famous by a particular president when he was told something. He said, "The buck stops here." Paul, the buck stops with you. You can't. I was a vice principal. Don't ask me about that. Well, yeah, well, the building violations will come. They don't want to release anything yet because they're going to probably, who knows what they're going to do with it.
I can tell you now, Annalise, for the record, that when reporters went to pick up the documents today, one of the corporate counsels screamed across the room and said, do not release anything until the 10-day mark. Anything. What do they have to hide?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. They want to hide everything. But let's get back to Coogan saying, I'm a vice principal. Don't ask me about that. I don't know anything about it. Well, you have to make yourself know. You have to hire people who will give you accurate information or fire them. The buck does stop there. Well, we can't we can't confirm that without the records. It's not a nursing home, which statutorily has to be inspected quarterly. I know I did them. But the fact is that Paul Coogan has admitted he doesn't know anything. You can't be a leader. And let me explain something to you about leadership, Paul. The leader has to accept the responsibility for all his subordinates. Your lieutenant screws up, it's because you didn't train him properly. Your captain screws up, you're a chief, you didn't train your SWAT. They messed up, you got to ream their ass and make sure they don't make mistakes again. But you have to accept it. You are the commander. You are the CEO. The buck stops with you. If you're sitting in that 6th floor and every time it's never your fault, never your fault, Paul, it's the owner of the property. And admit there's probably a lot of liability to go around here. But that's for later, the post-investigation. We lost 9 lives, and the mayor now found 1.5 million. Let's remember they took $3 million out of the city council that was applauding for the firefighters. Took $3 million out of the budget. It was for miscellaneous. It was not for manpower. So why didn't the chief commit that money for manpower? They all know what the standard is. Now they only gave him half of the money back, and now it's for overtime, and they say they can't hire people, which is bullshit. The city can call for a firefighters list anytime they want and they don't want to pay benefits. They don't want to pay the health care. They don't want to pay the salaries. They don't want to pay the other benefits. They're going to replace them with overtime. But that doesn't work. You know why? This was a very long one. Yeah. No, he never does. Yeah. Everybody else is going to speak, but he's the mayor. He's got to accept the fact that even if he can't be, if he was unaware, it's his fault. If his people were unaware and they were being paid to be aware, they have to be fired. That's what leadership does. If in the military, if you go in and you get your entire battalion butchered, you're going to have a problem. You go to a fire scene and you don't know how to run it, you're responsible, but the people who hired you are responsible too. The buck has to stop somewhere. He's a mayor. As I said, he should not run for mayor. He should pull his papers. He should have enough of a moral compass to say, listen, I've done enough damage. I've done enough damage to the people of Fall River. And this last thing is it's obscene to watch him dodge and duck. I spoke today to one of the preeminent public safety lawyers in the country, a man who has appeared at 58 different public safety seminars to talk about liability for not complying with regulations. A man who has settled lawsuits from California to Massachusetts and everywhere in between. He has been watching this because he lives outside of Boston. He's been watching this. He was appalled. He was appalled. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people don't know. There have been, and they better hope, some of the relatives of these people don't decide to file a suit and get somebody like this guy who's not Morgan and Morgan. You got into a car accident, I'll get you a settlement. This guy is a public safety expert. It's a public safety expert. This city would lose the lawsuit. There have been lawsuits settled in this country, and I have copies of them, where cities, mayors, fire chiefs were held accountable for insufficient manning. And there were multi-million-dollar lawsuits settled. People died because they were not adequately staffed. This is not new. If somebody decides to sue, this city's in trouble if they go to a good lawyer. I'm not saying go to the corner ambulance chaser. You got to go to a specialist. This guy is one of the best, if not the best, in the country. He has lectured all over the country. He settled a lawsuit in Connecticut years ago for $10 million about apparatus safety. 2 firefighters were killed in an apparatus that's non-compliant for safety. They sued. He got a $10 million settlement in Connecticut. That's just one of many. But this clown that we have for mayor, they're going to cover up everything. You know, it's going to be wait 10 days. People might start forgetting. Paul's going to duck everything. Listen, it's obvious. He's now got a camera in his face all the time. Unfortunately, at the cost of 9 lives, 9 souls were killed. And now we find out he found the money. Why didn't you find the money before? Why did you take $3 million? Why was it there for miscellaneous? Why is your fire chief now worried about, I need 200. 200 isn't enough. Filling with overtime isn't enough. I'm telling you that. I ran at Union. This is the reason we got here. We got here because the city decided to not keep us at 300, to bring us down to 255, and say we're going to fill them with overtime. And I said, that doesn't help. If we got 255 guys and we need 300 at a fire, we're short 45 guys. If you have 300 people, they can all come to the fire. If we have a major incident, they can come in and fill in. If you don't have bodies, overtime guys, it's only one person. He can't work his own shift and an overtime shift. If there's 2 fires, he can't split himself in half and go to the other fire. You need bodies. You need a manning standard. Not an overtime standard, a manning standard. What's the lawyer's name? The lawyer's name is Neil Rossman. He represented 10 or 15 fire departments, including Fall River, Cambridge. He represented the Suffolk court offices, numerous police departments. He's filed lawsuits for fire departments throughout the country for safety violations. He was, before he became a lawyer, a firefighter for 7 years. He knows the job. He is an expert in fire safety, a court-recognized expert in fire safety. And he was furious. I mean, he was beside himself. He was so angry at the fact that we were undermanned and other things like that. Yeah, that's right, Neil Rossman. Yep, he used to have an office in at 200 State Street, right in the back of Faneuil Hall. He had a private elevator up there. Now he's cut his practice down. He only takes very, very important cases now. His main office is in Peabody, but he is one of the most well-known lawyers in the country. If you look at that stuff, he actually, if you want to see him in action, you could get on YouTube and watch the Reggie Lewis from the Boston Celtics, the guy who died. When they tried Reggie Lewis, Neil Rossman was the guy who cross-examined Dr. Mudge during the trial. He's exceptional. He was our lawyer for the 25 years I was the president. He was the lawyer before I got there, and when I left.
And he still laughs at Fall River.
and yeah, but he was always fascinated. And the irony is, to show you how they don't want a lawyer who will always do the right thing, Neil will not he will not cut corners. He will not make deals for safety. And the first thing after I retired and gave up the union and left the job and Coogan got elected, Mike Coogan fired him. A guy who had virtually never lost a case. In 25 years, we have never lost an unfair labor practice. We beat the city twice at the JLMC. We won 298 out of 300 grievances. And the first act that Mike Coogan did before his second act of using his position to become chief and jump 145 guys and sell out his union was to fire a great lawyer, the best lawyer in the state, one of the best lawyers in the country, because they want a lawyer that'll do what they tell them, like yell, "Don't release those documents until 10 days." That's what they want. They don't want the public to know. Let's see what kind of spin we can go. Let's see if we can lose a couple of these reports. And by the way, this is not a conspiracy theory. Neil Rossman represented us at a case in Boston where he proved, with a Perry Mason move, that the fire commissioners had fraudulently created minutes that didn't exist to support their case. He exposed them. He cross-examined them. They entered the minutes of the meeting into evidence, and Rossman looked at him, and then we got the administrator on the stand, and he said, "Why are the last 3 pages here in a different type?" The administrator said, "Well, I did that on a word processor." He said, "Well, why didn't you do the rest of the minutes on a word processor?" "Well, we didn't have a word processor when I did those." So he said, "So what you're telling me is you created these 3 pages today before you came to Boston to litigate this just so you could support your case. You cannot say this was actually said a year ago at this meeting, because the first pages showed what was there, and they had to admit it, and they got in the crap for it. They were in a crapper. Case closed." No, no, Annalise, they don't. This is what they always do. They don't want anything out. Power, money. They're going to protect everybody. They're going to protect their appointees, because now they're going to have to admit that they put they put people in those places that they can manipulate, that will do what they're told. They're not going to stand up and say the truth is the truth. The truth never fears investigation. Coogan is making himself look like what he is, an incompetent boob. The mayor's got to get up there and say, "Okay, they screwed up. I'm taking responsibility. I'm firing the fire chief. I'm firing this one. I'm firing that one. I know I'm going to hire a 29-year-old who took 3 times to get the numbers right, and I'm going to pay her a lot of money and get her a bunch of assistants." And you're right, puppets. They want. This is what they want. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Oh, wait a minute. I can't get my lips over there. Okay, thank you. All right, that's what they want. They don't want people that will stand up like Leo Stapleton, the fire commissioner in Boston, and hold a press conference and say, "The Boston firefighters will not enter a building except for rescue until I get my manpower back. We will anytime you have a fire in a building in Boston, you cut my manpower, 800 men, I'm going to do one thing, stop it from spreading. We're going to locate and we're going to confine it. We're not going to do interior fire attack because I do not have the manpower to do it. And I'm telling you, you can cross it off the tax rolls." The next day, he got his men back. The next day. But instead, we got a fire chief on there crying.
We have a lot of questions about this administration and his appointees.
Yeah.
Okay? We have questionable appointees about filing false reports in the past. And I know that came up during their confirmation hearings. But, of course, the city council went like this, kept their eyes closed, because, as you heard Linda say, this past meeting yesterday, that I worked with your father. I worked with your grandfather. I worked with your great-grandfather. I didn't work with your great-grandfather. I worked with your father. Okay? The problem is that these people have been in office for too long. That's why these people get appointed. Because they're all friends. Did you see the EMS chief's hair? Did you see the way she came down? She didn't look like a chief. Her hair was all scraggly and hanging down. I know it was a humid day, but still. Her uniform was clean and I wouldn't say pressed, but clean and presentable. But again, she followed through the line. Her father was Chief McDonald. How did she get her job? Because her father was Chief McDonald. And she worked her way up the line. How did Chief Bacon get his job? Because remember, he said, I scheduled my manning based upon the budget sent to me by the mayor. The mayor said, I know nothing about manning. I gave the fire chief what he wanted. Sean Kadim said, I asked both chiefs what they need for manning. And he said 200. And that's what he got.
Yeah. And listen, they're all yammering about he said, she said. And the bottom line is it's up to the chief to tell him that, the chief knows the 1710 standard.
That's
he
right.
knows what the manning level is. The chief never, I need 200 guys. I'm going to keep my trucks under 4. He should have been advocating for that from the day he got in office. And he should have said, well, if you don't give it to me, it's on you. Paul says it's the old he said, she said.
Right.
He said it. No, she said it. No, he said it. No, she said it. Now nobody ever look. Both of them are responsible.
That's
the
right.
mayor is responsible. He says he cares about public safety, and the chief is responsible for complying with the standard to keep the safety of his own men up there. We screamed, "Holy hell!" We fought all the time. And listen, and I know Linda. Linda invoked my name at the council, and I know you're right. I do know, but the problem is, you don't need to have a council. You don't need to have a committee. I gave him the answer 20 years ago. It's called the 1710 standard. You don't have to bring in retired chiefs to tell you how many people you need on a truck. The National Fire Protection Association's already told you that. I had 16,000 pages of documented evidence on every evolution the fire service can do and how long a 3-man crew, a 4-man crew, and a 5-man crew could do it. I had the fire propagation, which I'll show you on the next show because we're off and running here. But fire propagation curves, all kinds of things. I had studies, everything you need to know. This is why you need 4 men on a truck. 4 men is not the best. 5. You know what they staff in New York City? Neil Rossman worked for a short time in New York while he was a student up there. Because he was he'd go in there and New York, because obviously New York is a huge city and it's what they call a very high hazard area. New York has 7 men on every engine company and 9 men on a truck. Ladder truck. I'm sorry, I'm using firefighter jargon. To us, a truck is a ladder. People call everything a fire truck. Firefighters call pumping engines. A truck is a ladder company. When you hear it, if you have a scanner and you hear a chief say, send me another truck, he doesn't mean a fire truck. He means a ladder truck because that's the jargon of the fire service. But look, you don't need to get a committee. That standard's been around. Well, I made that presentation at least more than 20 years ago. probably more like 25 years ago, a quarter of a century ago. I not only gave them the standard and all the proof, I gave them a plan to run the fire department more effectively, more efficiently, keep higher manning levels, and have a lower budget. Was it rocket science? No. You know what I did? I said, okay. I went to the International Association of Firefighters. I said, give me triangulate me a fire response time that we can have 3 fire stations that will run from the outside in, which is the way you're supposed to do it rather than fight inner city traffic. 3 fire stations, and we will be within NFPA standards for response time to anywhere in the city, and we'll only need 3 stations. So we'll only need 3 task forces rather than 4 task forces. So what does that mean? That means that you shut down 3 trucks, and you take those men and you put them on the other 9 trucks that are left. Now you got manning levels. You don't have the maintenance on those trucks. You got spare apparatus, and you've only got 3 buildings to maintain. Now that made no sense at all to the council. Why should we do things the right way? Why should we save money? Why should we only have 3? Oh, it's going to cost too much to build those 2 buildings. No, instead we'll put a roof on a globe station. We'll try to rehab Stanley Street. We could have built those stations 20 years ago. Been running with adequate manpower for 25 years. And you know what they did? Right there. We don't care, because they don't care. The only time they ever care, the only time they ever talk about this is when somebody dies. When you have a catastrophe like this, they're all paying attention. But in this case, they're all making excuses because they really screwed this up. Because the union went to the IAFF and they came down. I went to the IAFF. We had the IAFF send them the thing saying that everything I said was absolutely true. And Joe Camara, by the way, who was there, was the swing vote. We lost the vote to put 4 men on a truck, 5-4. 5-4.
So Joe Camara's to blame.
Well, Joe Camara is one of the 5. Well, I mean, the other Nimrods they had in that 5. Well, there was one other one that was a real traitor too. That was Tommy Kozak, which, and he sold that out for a couple of jobs for his kids for the city. So he sold himself out for that. But you had Pat Casey, who always, Pat Casey. That was, the other 3. But the other 2 were him. Oh, I don't even know if they know about that plan. That plan was put out so many years ago. Linda's got a copy of it. I gave it to her somewhere. She probably burnt it or something like that. I just still probably got a copy of it up in the attic. But the thing is that they forgot about it. I mean, I don't know how they wouldn't support it. It's, you're not going to lay anybody off. You're going to keep everybody on a job. You're just going to redeploy the men, have them at different stations, and you cut down overtime. The only thing, the problem is, what's going to happen with the officers? Well, the officers stay there, cuts down officer overtime, and then as the officers retire, you have to have a moratorium on promotions until you don't need officers for engine companies that don't exist, and the ladder company doesn't exist. So you got 3 sets of those officers that ultimately, through attrition, would be eliminated. I thought of everything. And that's why Linda was right when she said, he knows about this. I don't know. They should support it. It's something that should have been done years ago. And if we ever get a mayor with a half a brain, that's exactly what he'll do. That's exactly what he'll do. And the thing was, like I said, it had everything covered. All the NFPA standards. The IAFF's got a program. They'll take your city. They'll plant the stations. They'll look at the response time. They'll triangulate everything. If you want 2 stations, 4 stations, whatever, they'll tell you exactly where you're going to locate those stations to be within the adequate response time based on the NFPA standard. And now, if you close 3 companies, you take those men. I don't know what they got in the company now, 15 men, 18 men, 20 men. Now you got 60 people. 60 bodies for 9 pieces. Basically, so you got, and then you got rescue, but rescue runs with 3 anyway, but because it's a heavy rescue, but say 9 pieces. So look at, you got 60 people, 4 shifts. That's to put an extra man on every piece is only 36 men. You still got another whole bunch of people. You could get 5 men on trucks. You could have 4 men during prime time vacation with no overtime. And a situation like that would pay for itself in 10 minutes. In 2 years, the stations and everything else would be paid for by how much you spent on repairs on those fire stations that are falling apart, heating those stations, maintaining, well, they don't maintain them, but pseudo-maintaining them. But this is the stuff, this is what happens. All they care about is money. Paul Coogan found 150. Now, after the fact, he's gonna put it with overtime. So as soon as we go a few months without somebody dying, they'll hope everybody forgets and they'll start. What happened? We can't put people on for 2 years. Don't give me that shit. You can send a requisition to civil service right now and get a list right down and put them on a job. You don't want to pay the money. You don't want to pay the health care. You don't want to pay the benefits. You don't want to pay the salaries. But like I said, there's a side to that coin. Overtime does not fix this problem. Remember, if you have to bring 5 people on overtime and they're coming in the next shift, if you call in or they're in the farthest removed shift, and you call them in because you need help at fires, and you start with the farthest removed shift, you can't call them in. You got 5 less people to call in. You've already got them on overtime. If you have bodies, you've got the bodies. If you got 300 people, you have 300 people available to fight fires. If you've only got 200, you've only got 200 available to fight fires. It's not rocket science. That's right, Fred. Coogan has to go. Coogan should just withdraw his pay after the absolute fool he's made out of himself. That statement, I was a vice principal. Well, you're not a vice principal anymore, you bonehead. You're the mayor. You're like Harry Truman. Harry Truman didn't know anything about the Korean War, but he took responsibility for what happened because he said the buck stops here. Then he called MacArthur in and fired, even though MacArthur won the war with the Inchon invasion. That's a side of a little military history I have to throw in there. But the landing at Inchon was a miracle at that one time. So because they had one of the, but I'm telling you, it's crazy. I mean, now all of a sudden, what does that show? It means he didn't care in the first place.
That's right.
The time to check. Everybody tells you how much they're all clapping. Public safety. Oh, we love our police. We love our fire. We love our police. We love our fire. But nobody's going to ask them how many people they actually need by, and there is a statute. There is a standard on it. Well, believe me, I give Jazel plenty of credit. People say we're always negative. I'm not. I'm a realist. I'm a pragmatist. I see a glass half with water in it, not half full, not half empty. I'm a pragmatist. But I'll tell you something. I worked with Jazel. I was on a healthcare committee. I worked with him on retirement. I worked with him on other issues. The city, not that we agreed on everything, because, nobody's going to agree on everything. But I'm going to tell you something. He ran this city effectively. And even Sean Kadim said it. Granted, what he did on the outside wasn't right. But you know something? If my plumber gets locked up tomorrow because he did something stupid that had nothing to do with plumbing, when he gets out of jail, I'm going to hire him again because he's a damn good plumber. Jazel was Jazel just blew this guy away as a mayor. I mean, there's never been a worse mayor. When you got a mayor that stands up there and says, I don't know anything, I'm just a vice principal sitting here on a sixth floor, but I have no responsibility to know what's going on in the city. I depend on the people that I hire through nepotism, Annalise. I'll give you that one. Through nepotism.
And political favors.
Yeah, patronage. Then I say it's their fault. I'm gonna make Bacon well done. Blame him. Then if I can't blame him, he's gonna go on TV and cry. Then I'm gonna go to the owner of the building. Hey, there's enough blame here to go around with everybody. Believe me, I can guarantee there's enough blame. Do I trust what's going to happen now? No, because we have a history of this city falsifying records, losing records, manufacturing records, disappearing records. And now you got corporation councils blocking media. And look, I don't condone this anywhere. I'm for full accountability on everything. Where is it on a priority list? Well, not really high. I want to make sure that the city's safe. We have to deal with this issue. It's public safety. We have to get the manning level. But look, I'm the same thing. I'm not happy with the fact that we don't know about Jeffrey Epstein. Not that it's going to end my world, but I want to see, if there are records and they're the public should see them. We're the government. We're the people. Whether it's Jeffrey Epstein, UFOs, I don't give a damn what we're talking about. This is their constitutional duty. Because remember, our state constitution clearly states they are answerable to us at all times. All times. Not just when they want to be answerable. Now they got this 10-day deal. And shame on the city. I don't want to hear Bacon say, I only got one clerk. Well, you know something, Paul? If you were a damn leader, you would have said, okay, I want every clerk in the city hall to go over to the fire department, get all these records together so the city and the media can examine these to find out that where everything that went wrong. What was that? You'll have to be more specific than that. Who is she?
Hey, Gene wanted to know who the mayor was when you presented that plan.
Gene, that was through so many mayors. I can't. I'm guessing. Joe Camara was on a council, and he was not a old councilor then. He was he wasn't
Lambert.
Lambert. I'm guessing it was Eddie Lambert. And of course, Eddie Lambert was my neighbor, and he didn't talk to me. So. But yeah, this is crazy. I mean, the people have a right to know everything. I want to know from both sides. I don't want bullshit. But politicians love to get in front of a camera and deflect everything. Oh, it's his fault. It's their fault. It's my fault. Well, you got elected to do a job. And when you're the mayor, Paul cannot. How can he look in the mirror and run for mayor? He just said he has to depend on everybody that he appoints, and he never appoints anybody so far that's been competent. So. I mean, what does that say? He has no leadership ability. By his own admission, he admitted the best he's ever been in his life is a vice. Vice principals don't run anything. They listen to the principal. And a principal listens to the superintendent. He has been never at the top of a food chain where you have to accept responsibility. When I went to a fire and I was the chief, if something went wrong at that fire, it was on me. It was on me. If I left the fire scene and said the fire was out and we had a rekindle, which was almost a fireable offense in my day, if you ever left a fire scene and you didn't check every crevice of that place to make sure there was no hidden fire, and you had a rekindle later on, you were a pariah for the rest of your career. You didn't know what you were doing. You were a bum. My job. If I sent the lieutenant to check that attic and he said it was clear and I took his word for it, and it wasn't clear, it's on me. That's why I knew every one of my lieutenants and captains. I had some lieutenants, I'd say, go to the third floor and check the attic. And then when he came down, I'd get a lieutenant that I actually trusted and said, And I tell them, go to the third floor and check the attic again. And sometimes I go up there and check it. Yeah, there is a better system, Annalise. Throw them all out every 2 years and put new people in until we get people that actually will work for us. Yeah. Yeah, he was. Yeah, high fiver. Who knows? Listen, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of problems, and they will do that. But I am a, like I said, I'm a pragmatist. If my plumber went to jail, and he was a good plumber, the best plumber in the city, I'm hiring him when he gets out. Jazel, look, people could have a problem with him. I don't like what he did either. But the fact is that I believe in second chances. If the guy has really truly redeemed himself and said, "Look, I learned my lesson." I mean, if he did it again, look what Buddy Cianci did. He got in a second time, and he was responsible for the renaissance of Providence. Everybody loved Buddy because Buddy was for the people. Everybody loved Buddy in Providence because I happen to know Buddy because the president of the Providence firefighters was a good friend of mine, and I met him through Stevie Day, who was the president of the Providence firefighters at the time. And he actually came up to me at the Columbus Day Time a few times, and people go, "Oh, do you know Buddy? How do you know Buddy Cianci?" Yes, that's the long story. But Buddy was always for the people. When you went to Providence for something, he didn't say, "Go see my banker friends, go see my developer friends, go see my lawyer friends, go see my rich friends." You know what Buddy told people when they came to Providence? He'd say, "Go talk to the unions. Put Providence people to work." That's what Buddy Cianci did. That's why the people elected him again. They loved him. They loved him because that's the way he operated Providence. He was about the people of Providence. And the Providence Fire Department, Stevie Day, anything they needed, they got. Anything the police needed, they got. Because he was for the people of Providence. And they reelected him, and they did the right thing. Maybe some places they reelect somebody and they don't do well, but I'm going to tell you, I've seen it just down the road, 15 minutes down the road, Providence. Listen, I vote for who I feel is the best candidate. Jazel does have a proven record of being a decent mayor. So somebody's got to tell me that they're going to be as good as him, if not better, for me to vote. I'm going to vote for the guy I think can run the city best. I don't give a damn what he did on his off time. I don't care how many strip joints he went to or how many times he went to Vegas. I can't point fingers at anybody because I used to go to Vegas every 3 months. So I'm not pointing a finger for people to go to Vegas. So I don't care what he did. I don't care what he did. He never stole any money out of my tax bill. He never increased my taxes through the ceiling. He never sacrificed anything in the city that I know of, and I worked with him on health care and retirement. And he was always fair, decent, and did what he had to do. Supposedly, they're taking a no confidence vote in the Couds. Well, I don't know. I don't know I don't know where he is. Obviously, that's right. You're right. You're absolutely 100% right. He understood that. He understood that politics is supposed to be about the people. Well, we haven't totally. The only candidate that we know is for sure running for mayor is Carlos Caesar. And I know Carlos Caesar called me and asked me, fundamentally, and said, "How could this happen? I would demand, I would demand a forensic audit." Nah, he could never be mayor. He could never be mayor. He's like some of those councilors. See, some of these councilors are very, very good in in non head-to-head elections where you can vote for multiple people because they get votes for people who know them. They know their cousin. They did a favor for their cousin. Linda Perez is a classic example. She always does well in the city council races, but when she ran for state rep, she got buried. When she ran for county commissioner, she got buried. When she ran for mayor, she gets buried. Because when you have to pick one person to do the job, you have to pick the best person, not somebody that you could just make a phone call to your cousin. And that's the reason. Some people are better in head-to-head elections because they show leadership. Paul Coogan, I got to give him credit for one thing. He had the perfect timing. He stepped into that office when nobody wanted it and kind of like, okay, I'm going to take it over. I'm just going to be a stabilizing force. He could not win an election in the old Fall River when people showed up to vote, and now he shouldn't even run. After what he's done to himself, his own credibility, on TV, on multiple channels, he should just say, I've decided not to run.
He should. Now, in regards to the names that you listed, Fatima, Boomer Amaral turned his paperwork in on Monday, I believe. It has not been certified yet. As for Christopher, haven't heard anything. Some have said he may be dropping out altogether. I don't know. But he should.
Way to go, Fatima.
Yeah.
You made CJ choke. He choked.
Oh, God.
He choked on that one. But no, right now the only candidate is Carlos Caesar, and I know one thing about Carlos. He is guaranteed he will do a forensic audit as soon as he gets into office, and that's already given him points on my scale because anybody who will do a forensic audit on his city and let the people know to the penny, because that's the smart thing to do. Boomer just received certification, Nelson has said. Yeah, that's true, Gene. Yeah. Same thing with them, Same thing with them. They just couldn't go head to head. But he said he's going to do a forensic audit, and obviously that's the smart thing to do. Any mayoral candidate should adopt that because something, it's a no-lose situation for a candidate. Because listen, everybody steps into the mayor's race. They find the city's in the shitter. You're in a toilet. You got to stop moving money around and playing games to try to balance the budget. No, that's not the way you do it. I'm giving everybody political advice now. What I would do is exactly that. Forensic audit, like we did on the healthcare system. Now you know where every penny is. Now you know the city's in a toilet, and you go to the people and say, you elected me? Now you know, like I know, we're in big trouble. We got no money. They did this, not me. I'm here now. We're going to fix it. But we're all going to have to bite the bullet. We're all going to have to we're all going to have to stop with the pay raises for a while. We're going to have to bite the bullet. We're all going to suffer together, though, and we're going to turn Fall River around. Because when I'm in office, you're going to know where all the money is all the time. It's going to be clear to you. That's what should be done. They won't do that because they want to stay. They'll say, oh, the people might get upset. Oh, the unions might get upset. Well, the union's going to realize they want a job because when a receiver comes in, you think you're taking a little pay cut now, or you have to wait a year or two for a pay raise? If a receiver comes in, they'll chop your salary in half. That's the whole thing.
Gene, every mayoral candidate, every city council candidate had difficulty getting signatures this year. Don't know why. They all did. I heard from numerous candidates saying, can you take a sheet? I think Chip took a sheet of paper for somebody. They all had problems. People are fed up. The apathy is just growing too much. You may not even get them to come out. And if they don't come out, Paul's going to win. That's the key. And Paul knows it.
You got to take it to them. But, I think one of my things is I think a lot of the signatures, you run into people standing outside getting signatures. Half the people you run into, I don't even think they're legal. They're not registered voters. Well, you're one of the exceptions. Count yourself lucky. I don't know where you went for the signatures. Well, you might have a very good base, which says something for you when you run. You may belong. Some people don't have problems because they belong to certain fraternal groups or other things like that. It's like with me. I go down to the retirement meetings for the retirees. Not everybody's Fall River, but if I had papers, they'd all go down and they'd all sign my papers at a meeting and at the Liberal Club, so I could get signatures kind of easily. Pat Casey used to get them because she was part of Stop Obnoxious Smells and some things down the South End. But everybody's not like that. And I'll tell you, I look around Fall River and I'm hearing it from people from Taunton and New Bedford too. I think we've got over 100,000 people in this city, and most of them are illegal. I think Maura Healey is moving all the illegals into market rate housing in these kind of cities. I was talking to somebody that said they're doing it in Lowell and Lawrence. They're moving them into market rate housing. That's why they're buying all these properties up. Who from Newton or Wellesley is going to come down here? We just lost 9 people at a fire, and somebody just attacked the police and got shot in the head. You really want to move down here from Newton or Wellesley? School system's failing. We're always in the top 5 in crime. The city's a disaster economically. The taxes are going through the roof, and you're paying for what? Nothing. So how are they filling these apartments? There's a big demand? Yeah, big demand to stick illegals in there. That's what I think. I look around my neighborhood. I know houses that were occupied by people I went to school with. I knew the families that occupied all those 3 decades. They were bought, renovated, and now I look at the occupants in there and I go, they're not from Wellesley. They're not from Newton. And they sure as hell ain't from Martha's Vineyard. And I see it all the time. Go to a laundromat. Go to a laundromat in one of the urban areas, not in the North End or something. Go to the one on 2nd Street someday. I had to go in there one day. I had a comforter to dry, and there was nothing open at night. And my dryer was broke. My dryer's still broke. I'm doing the laundry room over. It's going to be a while before I get my dryer back, but that's an aside. But yeah, they have to. Yeah, it has to go to the retirement. Well, you said that. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but you're the exception rather than the rule. That doesn't make it. That doesn't mean that other people don't have it. Most people don't, and not going out. It's been a really bad summer. Number one, and a lot of people actually have to work for a living, and they don't have a lot of time. And the time they go out, other people are just not going out. They have to go on weekends, or they have to go on, and that cuts the time down drastically. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Lucky for you, Michael, that you had no difficulty. A lot of other people are.
Yeah, I just said that 3 times.
Yep.
So it's like not everybody has difficulty. I may not have difficulty either. You may not have difficulty. We can call all our fans. I can go down to the retirement. I can go to a couple of unions that I know and give out a few papers, and I can get them too. But everybody doesn't have that. They don't have that network. I talk to union leaders all the time about their contracts, about things. People call me all the time, just like Linda's always saying, blah, blah, blah. Healthcare people call me all the time. I don't have a problem getting signatures. I don't have a problem running for retirement board. I don't have a problem getting signatures because I just go to the retirement meeting and I get them. That doesn't mean everybody else has that luxury. They don't. You may belong to the Knights of Columbus or the Masons or something else like that, and you got a whole bunch of people.
Guilty.
That's right. So you can go there. It's like me. They're not having any meetings now.
Right.
But, I could go to some fraternal organizations that I belong to, like you do, and get signatures there. Some people have different. Some people are trying to run. They got to work 2 jobs, try to pay their bills, and they got to try to catch people. It's been a terrible. I mean, who the hell wants to be out today? I mean, I had to go out because I had to take Abby for acupuncture. But Otherwise, I'm staying in. I'm not even going to take her for a walk. It's too damn hot, and I have to give her a couple of meds. I have to give her a little wacky pill to get her calm so she can get her acupuncture because she has a spinal issue. Oh, are you kidding? When Annalise, those people, you don't even count them. They have such a political machine because they're so powerful. She's the mayor of Boston. You know how many jobs she can give out? You know how many people she could just hand a couple of sheets to and say they can get literally thousands of signatures, in a few days. It's people have they oversimplify this. Oh yeah, just go out and ask people. A lot of people don't want to do it. A lot of people do. I signed some guy that's running for school committee. I was up at Shaw's. Guy said I'm running for school committee. We signed. I said I'll sign anybody's. I think everybody has a right to run. Doesn't mean I'm going to vote for you. And I said, but I'll ask you a question. Are you happy with the transparency on the school committee? No. Are you happy with the way they're handling the finances of the taxpayer? He said no. Well, you got my vote. How do they get elected? Easy.
Nobody shows up.
You got 14,000 people showing up, and they gave out 10,000 jobs, Gene. So between the jobs they gave out and their relatives, they can get elected in low turnout elections. Have you ever seen? Well, Gene, you've been doing this. We have 3 people right now that I'm talking to you and CJ and I. Between you, I, and CJ, we've got well over. We're probably pushing over 200 years in politics.
It's for sure.
So have you ever seen an upset election with a low turnout?
No.
That's the thing.
Low turnout favor the incumbent.
We had a bigger turnout for our recall than they had in the 3 elections for Paul Coogan.
Because he's doing his job, Fatima.
That's right. That's what he's supposed to do. And it is not ball busting when you ask people for the numbers. If somebody went up to you, Fatima, and said, I want you to give me $10,000, and you say, well, I want to know exactly how you're going to spend it, why it's in my benefit, which is the job of a school committee, a fiduciary responsibility, ensure the money's being spent correctly and in the best interest of the taxpayer. We have case law for that. And they said, no, F you. You don't need to look at the numbers. Just sign a paper and give me the money. You go, in a pig's ass. I'm not giving you anything. Colin is not busting balls. He's asking questions that he wants answered before he votes. And him and Kevin are the only 2 people that are not violating the law. Because I keep reading that part from the Cornell Law School about them having to look at the numbers. Yet the school committee has voted on hundreds of millions of dollars without even looking at where they're spending it. Kenny Pacheco goes up there and says, no bid. Well, it's against the law. Who cares? Give him the money. I had to do it.
It was an emergency. Had to do it. Had to get done anyhow, so I just did it.
That doesn't count. That doesn't, I'm sorry. That doesn't count.
I had to do it.
Count,
Hey, Anna Riley got certified. She's going to be on the ballot for school committee.
And I can tell you right now, I know her background. I vetted her when she was up. You're right. And I mentioned that on one of the shows I guess you couldn't make, but I was talking about you and mentioning Athens again. But I'll tell you, well, that's Tennessee. Remember, that's Davy Crockett country over there. They get it. Yeah. Well, he went once and he went bankrupt. The only way he can become a millionaire is stay in with the mayor. So hopefully we'll get a mayor that's going to bounce him out on his ear too. Because
I hear you. Well, it's been a wonderful show. We could go on for hours more. But I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Make sure you get out and vote. And Paul Garvin, thanks for watching. I saw you out there. You should have ran for mayor. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you on Friday.